So I'm getting ready to go to Chicago to hang out with my buddy Zach Moore, who I've done a video with before that you can check out here. And I've decided that this would be a great time to show you how I prep a fly rig and some of my best tips and tricks when you're flying with really any expensive equipment, but specifically an instrument, pedal board, guitar, etc. And I'm doing all of this without checking a bag. So I'm going to show you kind of how I prep everything, my thought process, why I don't like to check a bag, and a few other tips. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Let me know any of your thoughts in the comments down below, and let's jump in. So first things first, we've got to talk about the cases that I'm fitting all of this stuff into. And first up is my Mono Creators dual guitar case. Now, you may be asking yourself for a minimal fly rig why I'm taking a dual guitar case. And that's because I'm only actually taking one guitar, but this is also going to double as my luggage, my clothes bag, all of that kind of stuff. The good thing about being a musician in this case is that I can pack pretty minimally and casually. I only need a few t-shirts for the few days that I'm there, a couple of additional changes of clothes, and I'm actually going to wear the only jacket that I'm taking with me on the plane. This way it doesn't take up space in my luggage. Now again, this isn't always possible, but because it's summer and because I get to dress casually, it works out for me. I don't have to pack any other shoes. I don't have to pack anything that would take up significant space, so this is actually a great solution. Now I'm going to have a few other things in this case, including all my connectivity, all my cables for my rig and such as that, but most of the other things are going in my backpack. So the second case is this one. This is my Mono Creators Flyby backpack. I've done a full video review on this here. It's a great backpack, super tough, and in this I'm gonna have a laptop, in-ear monitors, an external hard drive, chargers, connectivity, all of that, as well as my pedal board. So I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna fit all of this in these cases, and hopefully this will give you some creative ideas on how to put together your own fly rig. But let's look at the gear that I'm taking, the setup for this one, and then I'll give you some of my tips on dealing with airport personnel and actually getting your stuff on the plane with you. Alright, so here's a quick overview of what's going in the cases. Sir Classic S is the guitar that I'm taking. It's going in the top half of the dual electric case, and the bottom half is actually already packed with all the clothes that I need. Moving on, also in the electric guitar case, I've got my Guitar Tech toolkit, guitar strap, and all of my cables and connectivity will go in there as well. You'll notice that I don't have a tuner on the pedal board, but what I do have is this handy dandy Neutrik silent plug cable. Now the great thing about this is when this detaches from the guitar, this little sleeve pops out and that will actually mute your signal, which is fantastic. So this gives me a great way to mute on stage without having to sacrifice the space for a tuner. Again, this Sir stays in tune better than any guitar that I've ever owned. I don't have to worry about it, and I've got a little tuner in the Guitar Tech toolkit. Now moving to the backpack, I'm actually going to fit all of this stuff. So I'm going to have the Golden Fleece, which is a fuzz. I've got the Norton preamp for all of my overdrive and distortion needs. The Strymon Iridium is acting as my amp. I'm using a Fender amp model and a Marshall amp model based on my Sir Badger 18 and my 67 Deluxe Reverb. I've also got the Strymon El Capiston and Flint, and I'm using the Analog Endeavors Dual Favorite so that I have a preset on the Flint and a preset on the El Capiston. Moving on, we're moving into the backpack. I've got a notebook, I've got pens and all of that stuff that's not pictured. I've also got some cables, connectivity, and all of that for electronics. So I've got phone charger, computer charger, 16-inch M1X MacBook Pro, in-ear monitors, and a few other things as part of my camera rig. But that's basically everything that I'm traveling with. Now let's talk about some tips to make the most of flying with all of this gear. Now there is one other little thing on this bag that I think you should put on any bag that's being checked or anything that may have to go under the plane. That is these little metal loops. Now the thing about these is that I'll attach them to any one of the zippers on my case, and it works with this one in particular because there are two zippers on each. So then I simply string it between two zippers and it can only come unzipped a couple of inches. Now even though this case has really great zippers, I do find this to be really helpful because we've probably all seen, if not our own luggage, then someone else's that comes out and there's a huge zipper undone, especially I find if it's a checked bag that has something like a pedal board or something that TSA might want to take another look at. So this allows them to easily, if they need to, detach it, and then once they're done, they can put it back on. Now, I've used zip ties and things like that in the past, but of course then if they cut the zip ties, and you'd have to put more in the case for them to reattach it, and they usually won't go through that trouble. I should also point out that I won't do this until I have already gone through security. So that way, in this case, since I'm not checking anything, but this might need to be gate checked, I'll have this go through security. They can check out anything they want to, get into any of the compartments, and then after I go through security, I'll go ahead, secure all the zippers and latches to be sure that nothing comes open if I do have to check it at the gate. And since I'm flying on a small plane, this is pretty likely because there's only 2 seats on one side, one on the other. It's a direct flight that's only a couple of hours long, so I'm banking on this is probably going under the plane. So these little things are super helpful. You can find them on Amazon, but now let's talk about how to make the most of the experience. A few little tips and tricks that'll get you a long way and hopefully will prevent you from having to put your guitar under a plane. Number 1, avoid checking a bag where you can. You have to wait longer to actually check the bag itself, and then when you get to your final destination, get the bag off. But if you're a musician and you have some flights change or something due to weather or whatever it may be, your stuff may end up on a different plane or delayed from when you actually get to the airport. Not only does this cost you time, which is pretty much inevitable, but this could also cost you the gig. If you don't have your gear, then you might just have to make it work with one of your bandmates' gear, or if you're fortunate enough, maybe a backline company or somewhere else in town has some gear you can use. But I've heard cases, even though it's never happened to me, where luggage was delayed. All they had was the guitar that they carried on, and the artist had to go to the gig and make it work. Now, these are things that happen. Again, sometimes can be inevitable, but if you're carrying all of your gear on with you, then at least you're going to have it with you whether or not you yourself are delayed. Number 2, just be nice. A lot of times just asking will get you a long way. There have been plenty of times where I've been listed in a later boarding group because of where my seat was on the plane, and I simply went up to the attendant, asked him if I could board early in order to get my guitar on the plane in a coat closet or in an overhead bin, and most of the time they accommodate that. I'd probably say 7 out of 10 times I've been accommodated. Now, in this case, because this is a double guitar case, it is a bit larger than a typical guitar case. They may not be able to, but even if they can't, I'm not going to be rude about it. They're doing the best they can, and a lot of times, again, they're much more likely to help you if you're simply being nice. A lot of times they can't control how much or how little space is on the plane, so always just be courteous. This also applies to TSA if you're going through and they're maybe looking at your pedal board really close. If you did decide to carry it on, making their life more difficult is only going to make your life more difficult. Number 3, and this is a pretty big one, buy quality cases. If you're toting around thousands of dollars worth of equipment, don't get cheap junk cases or just try to make it fit in some kind of common checked luggage. You can do this if you have to in a pinch, and if you pad it up pretty well, it could very well be fine. But in my case in particular, I'm carrying Mono Creators cases because I trust them. They've been great for me, and they're just easy to carry around. They're as protective as any of my other cases, soft cases or hard cases, and I really believe in their product. It's really important not to skimp on your case. Whatever that looks like for whatever your instrument or equipment may be, make sure that it's well protected, whether or not it's carried on or if it does have to be checked. If you follow those things, your life's going to be a whole lot easier, and at the end of the day, don't stress too much. Airlines deal with musicians and instruments all of the time, literally every day. So you're not the first, you won't be the last, and they're usually very accommodating and will take care of you and your instrument. But that's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, again, please like and subscribe because it helps me a lot. If you're new to the channel, please check out a couple of these other videos as well, and I will see you guys in the next video.